and welcome to Ready, Reset, Go. This is a conversation about jobs, training, funding, and you right here in Northern Michigan from Northwestern Michigan College. I'm Diana Fairbanks, and I'm convening this conversation today. We're here to help you find good jobs available in our local Traverse City community. We're here to let you know what kind of training is available at NMC to get you started, and we're here to help you figure out what kind of financial aid and other resources are available to help you pay for it. This is just a conversation. We're here to get that conversation started for you. You can find more information about this particular episode of this series and all of the other videos on our series at nmc.edu/reset. We have more information on you there. In today's conversation, we're going to be talking about biomedical technology specialists, and we're going to be talking with Joe Dieter from Munson and also NMC. Hi, Joe. Thanks for joining us.
Hello.
And we have Jason Slade, who's the director of the Tech Division at Northwestern Michigan College.
Hello.
Hi, Jason. And we have financial aid specialist Paige Sensinetti, who's going to be giving us all the ins and outs of financial aids to get us over those hurdles. Hi, Paige. So, Joe, you wear two hats here. Not only are you an employee at Munson, a biomedical technologist level 3, but you're also an adjunct instructor at NMC. I mean, you really kind of have a foot in both worlds here. From your Munson hat, give us a little bit of an idea of what does a biomedical technologist do? What is the work life like?
Work life, in my situation, it's in the hospital. We work on all the medical equipment that is patient contact generally, but it also includes radiology, laboratory, and some other outlying areas that we do cover. And essentially, we go everywhere. The other makeup of biomed that has transpired over the last probably 10 to 15 years is biomed has become more and more integrated with IT, IS, whichever you prefer, computer systems and networking. And a lot of our systems we handle the networking on, so we have to know the computer side of it, and then it's a handshake off to IS. So we're constantly evolving, just like many people know in electronics, computer world. It's constantly changing. We don't know from day to day what's going to come up. We can plan what we're going to do in the morning, and by 9 o'clock you're totally off on another avenue. So and during this trying time that we're in with the pandemic and everything, that's even become more so. We've been called upon to totally transform entire floors into COVID floors with different monitoring and different equipment on it, and to find equipment in some cases that will work for those floors and to help our patients.
When I think about, we watched old movies from back in the day, and it was a surgeon with a little black bag full of, gear. But if you think about the medical world today, so much technology is involved. How much is this field growing and changing?
The field is growing vastly. Very quickly. Long ago or long gone are the days of, one piece of equipment work to do a surgery with a person, or a ventilator for someone, or an IV pump. Now it's multiple systems, to the point, the biggest, as some people may have heard, the Da Vinci robot, which is doing robotic surgeries. Our surgeons sit at a booth like they're sitting in a cockpit, and they manipulate these arms, doing nearly microsurgery and getting in and doing microsurgery on valves and hearts and many other things. And it's just amazing. And we work on that stuff.
We talk about all the technology involved, but how inspiring is it for you? How encouraging is it for you to know that the work that you do is out there helping save lives also?
It's very encouraging. It's satisfaction. And I have had times where I've worked on a piece of equipment and found out, within a day that it was used on a patient, in some cases to save a patient, even. So yeah, it's very satisfying. I've been asked, how do you deal with that stress? And we just don't think about it. I approach it, and the men that I work with and the people I have come through class, I stress to, you work on every piece of equipment like your child, your mother, your family are going to be on that equipment. And it doesn't matter if it's an IV pump all the way to an anesthesia machine. So.
You did mention the stress there. I've seen enough medical shows to know that there can be some real stressful situations in the hospitals and medical systems. How stressful is the day-to-day job of a biomedical technologist?
A lot of biomeds keep things pretty lighthearted. And we kind of are like turtles and let things roll off our backs. Because we know, and I stress this also in class, the psychology that we're dealing with when we're going up on a floor and walking up to a nurse that may be working in a COVID area, maybe working in maternity, and they had troubled patient who lost a loved one or something happened negative. Those nurses are feeling that, and we're there to help them. They may vent on us, they may go off, it may, ruffle our feathers, but the bottom line is we're there to fix the equipment that they've called us up there for, and take care of that and make sure that it's going to work for our patient and to relieve that stress from the nurses.
Another patient-centered approach, but maybe from a different point of view. You're all kind of in it together there.
Yep.
You mentioned some of the characteristics personality-wise. What are some of the other things that you would be looking for if you were hiring people to help fill out your team?
Well, to sit down and interview someone to hire, we're looking someone with a knowledge, a background of electronics, and hopefully a biomedical program. And we also are looking for someone who can handle that stress. And I say to people when I go out into the community and talk to the schools at every level, middle school, high school, Michigan Works, my first question is, do you like to tear stuff apart? If someone answers me, yeah, I say, and I follow it. Have you ever torn your computer apart because you wanted to see how it worked? Have you torn, dad's remote control car apart because you wanted to see how it worked and then rebuilt it and you got satisfaction because it worked when you got done with it? You're a prime candidate for biomed. You have to have that interest in that, in that curiosity.
How does it all work? For sure. That's a great insight. Thank you, Joe. And you are a level 3 technologist, right? Well, what are the different levels and how important is certification in this work?
Well, your entry level comes in it's called a BMET 1, BEMT 1, and that's your entry level. And then level 2 is your mid-level. To move from those two levels comes with competency and your years in the field and what you've learned, and what we determine, okay, this person is ready. They can kind of lead a BMET 1 now and teach them something. That's how you move it up into those two levels, and then into a third level. That has to do with certification and years in the field. And the certification test is a fairly difficult test. It has evolved over the years, just like our industry has. It's 150 questions, and I believe you have 4 hours to take it, but it crosses over from anatomy, physiology, to physics, to your NFPA, OSHA standards, and general troubleshooting, IT, networking, all encompassed in this one test.
Hmm.
So
Well, that sounds like a lot, and you are level 3, but you have many years in the system under your belt there, right?
yep. And
Okay.
actually, I was 17 years in before I took my certification. So,
Okay.
and so my background for my electronics was from the Air Force back in
Okay.
1989.
Hmm.
So I really hadn't had general standard electronics and that knowledge from an educational aspect since then. So what I relied upon was my experience to take the test. We
Hmm.
encourage a lot of students to come out of any school, including NMC, maybe work a year or two to get some more general knowledge and then take that certification test.
One of the things I hear you saying, Joe, is that there's a lot of room for advancement and growth within your industry, which I think is really important, especially for people, who may be looking to start a career or transition careers. They want to make sure that there is room for them to grow. And I think that that's critical. One of the other takeaways that I hear you say, Joe, is those competencies and those transferable credits and skills. And I know, Jason, you do a lot of work with our students, whether they're students who are just coming out of career tech or high school, or whether, like Joe, they have some experience from another industry. And then how do we, get some additional skills, maybe if they want to maybe go into a new career. When it comes to engineering tech and the biomedical tech field in particular, how do you devise the curriculum to help work with employers like Joe and Munson to make sure they have the skilled technicians they need?
Absolutely. Thanks, Diana. So, biomedical equipment technology is one of the specializations under engineering technology. So, engineering technology is the umbrella, and then we have 7 specializations that kind of live underneath it. So, students come in, and in the core, they get a very general experience with some electronics, some CAD, other pieces that kind of give them that core eng tech baseline knowledge. And then we move into a specialization. And so, for biomedical equipment technology, now we're getting more electronic skills. We're getting that networking skills, which Joe listed on there. They're getting some medical terminology, which is important for those communications with nurses or other hospital staff members. And then it actually has a couple of biomedical equipment classes, which Joe teach, which just focus on that core or that equipment that they're going to see in the hospital. And so it takes those electronic skills that they maybe picked up and then kind of elevates it to an application that's specific to healthcare. And then we can talk about in more depth in a second. We have 2 internship requirements. This is one of the only specializations in Eng Tech in the 2-year program that has an internship requirement. But the on-off or the way that we can assess those competencies is broad. I mean, we have students come in from the Career Tech Center that's really interested in this. They might come out of a mechatronics program, electronics program on there, computer technology. It's another great pathway where they can use those computer skills. And it's also a great program for veterans. We can assess the skills that they picked up in the armed services. We can give a competency test, and they can have that electronics 1 or the electronics 2 already done really before they even finish their orientation. So it's a pathway that we really try to encourage.
Sounds like you really try to work with the individual student to find what's best for them. And I know just from talking with you before, there is a lot you do also to make sure that the schedule works for people. We know a lot of folks who are juggling families and jobs and everything else, that they really want this to work, and you really want to work with them to make that happen.
We do. Upper level courses we offer multiple sections of, and we try to find a time that works. As it becomes more specific, actually, as we get into biomedical 1 and 2, we really try to work with individual students. Joe and I just had a conversation with Amy Burns-Bailey, our experiential learning coordinator, who helps us with biomed. And we were actually looking at the individual students' schedules that were kind of on track to be in the class, and we were picking days and times that worked for them. And then we go even farther with the internships, and when those come up, to find spaces where they can take the 2 internships that are required. So we really try to make it flexible for the student on there.
Joe mentioned the kind of person you should be is the kind of person who likes to take stuff apart and see if you can't get it back together. I know we're talking about one of the 7 engineering techs, but is that the kind of person you're looking for, Jason? Somebody who likes to take stuff apart? What are some of the other characteristics that would make a great Eng Tech student?
Well, absolutely on there. I just wrapped up in a class right before this, and they were taking taking apart amplifiers, seeing how they worked, and then they're going to design their own. And there was biomedical equipment students in there because they were doing that type of troubleshooting. I think across the board, we're looking for somebody that's inquisitive, that is trying to understand how things work, how to troubleshoot it both electrically and mechanically, because they have to interface together. And then if you take it one step forward with biomed, or one step farther, not only is it electrical, mechanical, but there also could be a computer interface or a networking interface on there that's causing an issue. So we like students with all those skills, some networking skills, some electrical skills, some mechanical skills, and then we kind of mix and match them all together, and then they can apply it to one of the specializations.
You know, it seems like the field of engineering tech is really expanding. How new is this work that we've been doing at NMC with biomedical, and is it expanding and growing from where we even first began?
So biomedical equipment, we've had, Joe, how many years now? 2 or 3?
3 or 4.
3 or 4. All right, so 3 or 4 on there. So 3 or 4 on there. So Diana, this actually was a joint partnership. We were working with Munson. We identified a need. We had the electronics program. It was a natural extension for that. Since that time, we've been able to actually add the 2 internship requirements on there. So a student will actually go for a 50-hour job shadow. So where they kind of get to see the hospital or the healthcare setting and do they like it. And then their final semester, or close to the final semester, they'll take a 150-hour internship, which is true on-the-job training. This is where the healthcare provider can assess it and say, yeah, this is a student that might work for me. Since that time, though, we've been working with a number of other healthcare providers, both in the region and in the state, because there is a demand. Just like Joe said, we're seeing across the board, we're seeing people retire and leave this field as that happens, there's a big need. And so we can place students both locally, but ideally we'd like to go regionally as well. And so that's where we see a lot of potential for growth for this program, is to not only service Northwest Michigan, but kind of the whole region as we have those needs.
And I think those connections like you have here with Joe, who's both an adjunct and also a Munson employee, and those other relationships that you have, I think at the end of the day, you know, what folks are saying that they want are, you know, not only the skills, but the jobs. And those connections, I think, are really just important. When we talk about taking things apart and figuring out how they work and put them all together again, that may be fun with biomedical equipment. It may be less fun when you're talking about digging through financial aid paperwork. Paige, welcome. That is something that can be overwhelming for folks, to the point that they say, oh, forget it, I'll just pay out of pocket, or forget it, I can't afford it, which is even worse, because I know there are a lot of financial aid, loans, scholarships, you name it. There is help available out there.
There is, on NMC's page under financial aid, we have a section called financial aid events, and we have a form you can fill out for one-on-one assistance, completing the FAFSA. We can do a Zoom call, just a phone call. We also have a few recorded sessions. We have an information session that goes over the basics of financial aid, comparing college costs. And then we have one on scholarships as well that helps you apply and find scholarships are legit, aren't scams, and they can be applied to any college. It doesn't just have to be NMC.
Yeah, you guys are really helpful with that. It's not even about NMC. It's just about making sure that the student gets what they need. You know, we talked briefly about scholarships, and I know that is your specialty. When it comes to scholarships, NMC has some deep pockets with scholarships, and even some scholarships that go unused because nobody applied for them. What's your advice when it comes to scholarships? What's your take-home message for folks?
Apply, apply, apply. Don't think that you're not eligible. Let us decide that. The application on NMC's site takes about 5 minutes, and you're automatically applied for 75% of our scholarships once you fill that general application out. This last year, we had $1.7 million worth of scholarships to give away, and 92% of students that filled out the scholarship application received a scholarship, with our average being $1,300 per student. So we have lots available, no matter what, academics, program of study, residency, gender, we have a scholarship for you.
And scholarships, of course, are free money, so you don't even have to pay those back. Speaking of free money, I know the state of Michigan has a new program available also, that Futures for Frontliners, and it's been in the news. They launched it in September, but it's got a lot of possibilities for folks out there, and still about a month for people to apply if they're interested. You want to fill us in on Futures for Frontliners?
Sure. So Futures for Frontliners is for any essential worker, especially during the spring, who hasn't earned a degree or certificate as of yet. It helps cover tuition and some fees. You have to apply by December 31st of this year, and you can start using it this spring up until next fall. So even if you're not sure if you want to start classes this spring, definitely fill out the application just in case. You can, like I said, use it up until next fall.
Okay, so even if you can't use it right away, you should apply just in case, and then you
Yeah.
can have that in your back pocket. And if Futures for Frontliners doesn't work out, Michigan Reconnect is another program that we expect will start here in a little bit later in the winter.
Yeah, so Michigan Reconnect, very similar to Futures for Frontliners, but it's for anyone over the age of 25 who hasn't earned a degree or certificate yet. And it'll also help cover tuition and fees. We'll know a little bit more about that when, Futures for Frontliners kicks in, and then Michigan Reconnect will. So there'll be more information out in the state of Michigan. Of course, NMC will have more info too.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and if you do have questions immediately about Futures for Frontliners, again, Paige said the deadline for that is the end of December 2020. You can go to nmc.edu/frontliners, and we do have more information there. But of course, we'll have a lot more information about all the financial aid resources available because there are a lot to help you. So we do have more information on our reset page also, whether you want to know more about biomedical technology, the specializations, the engineering tech that we talked about with Joe and Jason, you want to find out more about the financial aid available, or maybe you want to find about other jobs in our region that are available, other good jobs that we have training for in financial aid that we can help you get started. You can find more information on this series of conversations at nmc.edu/reset. And we hope you'll go there and check it out. Joe, thank you so much for joining us. Jason and Paige, experts as always. And we look forward to seeing you all again at our next conversation.